Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Advanced Bass Fishing, and appreciate you guys checking out today's video and spending some time with me. Guys, today I want to give you all some tips and advice on how to make a game plan for your day on the water. It's like if you've got one day a week to fish or one day a month to fish or whatever, if you strategize and you plan your day out prior to getting to the lake, your odds of success are going to go way up compared to just if you just load everything up and go. So I've got sort of a system that I go through that's been working for me for decades about how I approach to go fishing, and I want to share that with you guys in today's video, and I definitely think it's going to help you guys out there. Also, guys, for get started, just a couple quick things. You guys love to hear my daily housekeeping tips. Appreciate everybody that endures them. I know a lot of you guys probably fast forward them, but thank you very much, guys, for everybody that's been using and bookmarking my tackle warehouse link. Man, if there's one thing you want to do to support advanced bass fishing, that's just bookmark that link, and anytime you need a rod and reel or some baits, just use that link. It's a great way to support the channel. And also, guys, anyone interested in booking an on the water lesson with me, just go to my Facebook page, Randy Blaukat Professional Angler, shoot me a private message and I'll get you all set up with the details. So appreciate that. Okay, preparing for a trip there is so much you can do before you even get to the lake. And once you get to the lake, you can sort of execute your preparation. And I sort of want to go through the process of how you can do that efficiently. So let's say, for example, you got a fishing trip planned out, you're going to your favorite lake next weekend or something. You can start actually practicing for your day during the week while you're at work or home in the evening or something like that. The first thing that you want to do is it's good to get refreshed on the water as far as the lake. Even if you know the lake pretty good, guys, use the Google Earth and the Navionics web app. You know, how low tech I am, and this is something I can do. Just download Google Earth and download Navionics on your computer or your phone. And on Google Earth, go to Google Earth, and you can there's a feature on there that you can put in like certain times of the month and certain years. Like you can go back 5 or 10 years and see different water levels. Try to go to the menu on there that shows the lake at the time you're going to be there, because a lot of times the water level in September is going to be different than in April. So get on there, go back to some past water level periods and sort of get a refresher on the lake. Look through the lake and it shows you where, docks are. It shows you where lay down trees are. It shows you where rock transitions are. It shows you different type of water clarity changes in the lake. It really gives you a good idea of how the lake lays out. And based upon the time of year you're going and the potential techniques that you're going to use in, it really allows you to identify the best place of the lake that you want to fish in, because it shows you all those things. So say, for example, if you're fishing in the wintertime, everybody knows that the lower end and the cleaner water is usually better in the wintertime. You can go into the Google Earth and you can sort of just focus on that lower end of the lake and try to find everything that's down there. And you can use that in correlation with the Navionics, because the Navionics app will show you the contour line. So let's say, for example, you're going fishing in January and you want to fish some clean water on the lower end of the lake, and you think the fish are going to be on main lake points, something like that. The combination of those two will show you like the contours and the angles of those points, so you can identify a steep point or a flat point or a medium sloping point. And you can do that with every structure on the lake. So that's the first thing. The next thing you need to do is Google the lake and try to get some updated fishing reports. Now, when you're doing this fishing reports, guys, when you're looking at them, take them with a grain of salt and don't pay hardly any attention to a guide report. If you see a report from a guide, definitely approach with caution, because it's been my experience on guides around lakes that they never say a bad word about the fishing. It's like, here's the typical thing. You'll look up a guide report and they'll say, fishing was really great on Kentucky Lake last week and it's only going to get better next week. And then 2 weeks from now, it's like, fishing was really great on Kentucky Lake. It's only going to get better next week. There's a lot of BS on a guide report. I'm not saying all of them, but I'm saying most of them. So the reports that I'm looking for are more of like the dudes that have been fishing and say, hey man, I don't fish tournaments. I went fishing down to Lake Kentucky Lake on Wednesday and I caught 5 fish doing this. That sort of gives you an idea of what's going on a little bit. And so you can do some research with that. Okay, the next thing is once you've done your research on your Navionics and your Google Earth and your, fishing reports and that type of stuff, you have to decide what part of the lake that you want to fish at. And again, this is where understanding of seasonal patterns and movements of bass occur. And I don't want to go into that in this video. I've done a ton of different videos on that in the past. But every season of the year, whether it be spring, summer, winter, or fall, is going to have parts of the lake that are better than others. For example, if you're going fishing the second week of April, there's probably going to be fish spawning. There's probably going to be fish shallow. So you're probably going to be concentrate more on like flat coves, like the back parts of the coves. That's a given there. If you're fishing in the summertime of the year, yeah, the fish may be out on the main lake on deeper points or, shallow up the rivers or something like that. So try to understand and use your knowledge of seasonal patterns and seasonal movements of bass to put you in the best area of the lake. Now, once you're in that best area of the lake, you have to put the lake into a manageable size. You can't cover everything in your one day of fishing on the lake. So let's say, for example, we're going to the lake in February, something like that. Say the water temperature is 50 degrees. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to find a part of the lake that's got some pretty clean water, since it's a little bit cooler, and gives me a diversity of different options for the month of February. So I may look at like a major creek arm on the lower end of the lake. Now in this creek arm, it's going to have a little bit cleaner water. I may have some points in there to fish. I may have some bluffs. I may have some secondary points. I may have some rock transition areas. There may be some lay down trees or whatever in there. I want to find a place that gives me a lot of different options as far as to catching fish. And I may go down there on my day, say I've identified through my seasonal patterns and the research on the lake that I've got Creek X is the place I want to fish. So I'm going to make Creek X my lake for the day. I'm not going to come out of Creek X. I'm going to stay in Creek X all day long. And I've got a variety of lures on based upon the time of the year. I may have a wiggle wart for cranking a rocky bank. I might have a jig for fishing around some shallow cover. I might have a jerk bait on for jerking around points. I might have an Alabama rig on, and I might have a little swim bait on, like a little 3-inch swim bait. And what I'm going to do is I may have 6 or 8 rods out there, different type of lure categories, and I'm going to sample everything within that creek. I may start out on a point, throwing a jerk bait. If that doesn't work, I may pick up the Alabama rig and fish that same point. If that doesn't work, maybe I'll pick up that little swim bait, that little 3-inch swim bait, and throw that out on the point until I figured out that the fish are either using points or not using points. If they're using points, that's great. I can identify it. I can start running other similar points. I might even be able to expand in a different part of the lake. Okay, if it's not biting, if they're not biting on points with those 3 lures, maybe I see a nice little bluff bank over there. And I get on that bluff bank and I start throwing that wiggle wart or the jerk bait down that bluff bank. Work that out, give that a try. And then maybe there's some boat docks across the other side of the lake, and I go over there and I fish a jig around those boat docks for a little bit. So I'm trying to sample every potential option that the lake has in there, and eventually you're going to figure it out. You're either going to figure out what's working or what's not working, and then once you figure out what's working, you can tweak it a little bit. Let's say, for example, we're on that bluff bank, and there's maybe some rock transition on the bluff bank, and we're catching a few fish on a crawdad pattern wiggle wart. And say I've got 3 or 4 different crawdad patterns. Say I've got an orange crawfish, I've got a red crawfish, I've got a green phantom. And once I know that they're biting that lure category, say I'm catching them on a red wiggle wart or a red crawdad wiggle wart, then maybe I'll pick up a green phantom wiggle wart and I'll see if they want that color better. And then if they're biting the green phantom wiggle wart, maybe I'll change my speed of retrieve to try to catch bigger fish. Maybe I'll speed it up or I'll slow it down a little bit. Or maybe if they're biting that wiggle wart and I know there's some bass there, that's when I pick up a jerk bait. Maybe the bigger fish want a jerk bait. That is how you tweak a pattern, and that is how you maximize the potential of an area, is by changing up lures, retrieves, different colors, and that type of stuff. But I have found, guys, if you use this approach that I talk about there, that your success on the lake is going to consistently get better and better all the time. It's a good system. It's one that's worked for me for decades, and I'm pretty confident if you try it, it's going to help you guys out too. So anyway, guys, thanks for tuning in. We'll talk later.